when you select something that you're going after, make sure you enjoy the journey, because that's about 80-90% of your effort.
Hi there. Welcome to this edition of Conversations from Studio 5. I'm your host, Ephraim Graham. Thank you so much for making this your destination for uplifting interviews in the world of lifestyle and entertainment. We do this every week, looking to connect you to popular culture and faith. And this week, we're talking to Jose Hernandez. He has an out-of-this-world story. As a child, he decided he wanted to be an astronaut. So he relentlessly pursued these space dreams for years, even as NASA, get this, denied him not one, not two, but 11 times. His story is now being told in the film A Million Miles Away. We sat down with Jose in our nation's capital to talk about the story, the film, and his inspiring life. Take me back to where it all began in terms of the idea that you, a kid on a farm, a migrant farm worker, could go to outer space. Where'd you...
Well, the stars always attracted me. When I was a kid, Star Trek, the first run series was coming on, Captain Kirk. And then when we would go out in the fields, we would go away from the pollution of light of the city. And it was still dark, and man, you can see constellations up above. And so they kind of just attracted me naturally. But then when I was a 10-year-old, I see on the black and white TV the very last Apollo mission, Apollo 17, Gene Cernan walking on the moon. And man, that's when it hit me. I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be like that guy. I want to go to space. And so that's when it hit me. And I told my dad, and my dad did something incredible. I mean, he only has a third grade education, but he had the wisdom to empower me to believe it, because he told me, I think you can do it. And not only that, but then he gives me a real simple yet useful 5-ingredient recipe. He said, you want to do this, follow this. He said, define your purpose in life. Recognize how far you are. Draw yourself a roadmap so you know how to get there. Prepare yourself according to the challenge you selected. And develop a work ethic second to none. So you mix that up, son, that's the recipe to succeed. And I went to sleep so happy, because I said, wow, my dad thinks I could be an astronaut, ergo, I'm going to be one. And as a 10-year-old, I never looked back as I grew up. I just add perseverance, because you guys know the story. I got rejected by NASA not once, not twice, but 11 times. And it wasn't until the 12th time that I finally got selected.
So you get rejected 11 times.
Yes, sir.
What makes you get up the 12th time?
Well, you really want it. But the thing I always tell people is, when you select something that you're going after, make sure you enjoy the journey, because that's about 80-90% of your effort. And so I was enjoying the journey. Now, being truthful, all that being said, no one likes rejection.
No.
I don't like rejection. So on the 6th try, man, I was ready to throw in the towel. I scrunch up the rejection letter, threw it away, and my wife finds it. And she knows I'm giving up. She'll say, what's this? And I told her, well, it's a silly dream. I'm giving this up and everything. And she said, don't do that. It says try again. Says, and if you don't try, she says, you're going to have that worm of curiosity, what if? And it's going to gnaw at you, for the rest of your life, and you're going to become a bitter old man. I don't want to be married to a bitter old man. and then she walked away with words that resonated with me. She walked away and said, I don't know what they have that you don't have. And very simple yet profound question she asked. Because when she asked it, I couldn't answer that question. I said, I don't know either. Maybe I better find out.
Yeah.
And that's when perseverance becomes strategic perseverance, because then I found out they not only met the minimum requirements to become an astronaut like I did, but they were also pilots. They were scuba dive rated. They were elite athletes. And they knew at least 3 languages. And I said, oh, I got a lot of work to do. So in the next 6 years, I acquired these traits, and finally, after the 12th try, I got selected.
Wow. So clearly, you are not afraid of hard work. What role does faith play in moving you from the farm as a little boy to what you've accomplished today?
Oh, a lot. You know, we grew up going to church, and my mom, you know, basically having us say prayers and being very close to God. And a lot of people always argue with me and say, wait, isn't that kind of like a contradiction in life? You know, science and religion. And I said, no, quite the contrary. I said, you know, science explains you how things work, the physics of life, right? The laws of physics.
Yeah.
That's what science does to you. So religion, I said, explains why things happen, not how things happen, why they happen. And so it fills you spiritually as to why things happen. And so I think they go hand in hand.
How does it feel to watch your story now play on screen for other people to see?
It's kind of like, it's surreal. It's kind of like an open book. It's almost like I opened my door to my house to the public, and they're all in here now watching me, you know. And but I think it's good in the sense that I want people to see my story, to understand where I came from, such that they get empowered to say, hey, if he had it that bad and he was able to accomplish this, then why can't I accomplish my own goals? So kind of challenging the viewer to say, if he could do it, why can't I?
What's your hope for people like yourselves and your family, migrant farm workers who sometimes we see in the headlines, sometimes they're invisible? We see the constant debate about immigration and so forth. What's your hope this will contribute?
My hope is that people realize that news tends to be focused on bad news. So they're going to focus on the 3 to 4, 5% of our society of immigrants, undocumented, and they focus on those 3 or 4 or 5%, and they don't see the 97% of Latino immigrant families, law-abiding, that just want to live and be like the butterflies in the movie. You know, sacrifice one generation so that the next generation can go further. I mean, that's what I want them to understand, that, you know, 97% of the immigrants are good people. They're here to work. They're honest people. And I think my movie shows that.
You and your dad now work together, if you will?
Yes.
What's that like? So you worked alongside your dad at 4 a.m. trying to beat the sun up, I think they say.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, you know, when you're young, you don't appreciate how you're so close to the family. And then you grow up, you go to college, and then you go away, and then you work, and then all of a sudden you get married, you have kids, and you just don't have the time. You know, I'm either in Washington, D.C. working, I'm in Houston working, out of town, and they don't get to see the grandkids. And so now when we came back, you know, I had a chance to say, wow, now I can spend time with my dad in something he loves, agriculture. And so when I got the vineyard, I said, hey, you're going to help me, because I know how to pick grapes. You taught me how to keep it, but I don't know how to manage a vineyard. You know when to fertilize, you know when to irrigate, you know when to take the sugar levels and do the pick. So he transferred all those knowledge to me, and these past 7 years have been wonderful. Quality time with my father, where now, hopefully he stays with us for a long time. But the moment he won't be with us, I'm not gonna say shoulda, woulda, coulda, because I'm doing it right now. I'm spending that time with him.
What does he think about your life? I'm sure, him there witnessing you blast off and witnessing all the attention you're getting now. What's he say?
My mom and dad, they were happy that we as kids, graduated from high school, because they knew, okay, they're not going to work in the fields anymore, so that's a step up. And then they were ecstatic that we all went to college, and then when one of them becomes an astronaut, they're on cloud nine, and they still are. They beam with pride on all the kids, all my siblings and myself, but they can't believe it, but they are so happy, and I love to see them enjoy the moment.
Nice. At least one teacher is shown in the film. Tell me about that teacher's impact on your life.
That was a big impact in the sense that my second grade teacher, we were at our last stop and we were going back to Mexico, and I did what I usually did, is ask for homework, 3 months worth of homework. And I'm the youngest of four, and Miss Young, my teacher, had done that for all my kids, for all my siblings. So she said, you know what, I'm going to go home and talk to your parents. And so she did, and she convinced my parents to stay in one place. So that one little detour she took had a profound impact on the trajectory of a whole family. So it was very important for me to look her up, invite her to the NASA launch, and she was sitting next to my parents when I launched up into space.
You are in D.C. working and touring and lobbying, if you will. Why? What is it that makes you do this now?
Well, I think for one thing, I think it's great to promote space exploration. I think promoting space exploration promotes technical innovation. Technical innovation promotes the economy. It keeps the U.S. at the forefront of innovation and economic development. So I think it's smart to invest in these higher paying jobs that where you develop technologies that then get commercialized for use here on Earth, much like our cell phones. I mean, that comes out of NASA technology. Direct TV to watch, satellite TV to watch your program football games. All those things come as a result of investing in space exploration.
You've got children now of your own. Do you see yourself in them?
A lot. I got 5 kids.
Yes.
My oldest, 4 weeks ago, graduated from Purdue University in aerospace engineering, PhD. Nice. I told him, why Purdue? He said, did you know that Purdue graduates the most astronauts? In other words, that's the school that's produced the most astronauts in all of the U.S. So he said, this is why I'm going to Purdue. So that's how he told me he wants to be an astronaut.
Nice.
And then my girls graduated all from college, Loyola Marymount, UC Santa Barbara, University Pacific, and the last one in college is in his 3rd year mechanical engineering at UC Merced. So I could see the light at the end of the dark tuition tunnel. I'm almost out of there. 2 more years.
Nice. So you're hoping that your son who wants to be an astronaut, that you're witnessing him?
Yeah. I'm basically mentoring him, just like I mentor probably 50 other kids that want to be astronauts, and so I mentor them, and I tell them, look, this is what I did. It may be different for you, but this is what worked for me, and so I treat my son like any other mentee and say, this is what I did. Find out what works for you.
Nice. I'll end this. I know you wrote a letter to your 10-year-old self.
Yes.
If you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self, what would you tell the little boy?
I would say, make sure you stop and enjoy the path to your destination, because sometimes we focus too much on our destination and we don't enjoy the present. We have to be enjoying the present. I think you got to have a nice balance in life and enjoy the present too. And that's what I would tell myself. So enjoy more those moments when you're sitting there watching your kid at a baseball game, when you're watching your girls at a swim meet, those type of things that at first, when you're a father at that point and you have to be there at 6 in the morning all the way to 3 or 4 p.m. in the swim meets, you're complaining. But now I look back, I said, man, I would do anything to have another day like that.
I love it. Thank you so much. Enjoyed to talk to you. By the way, A Million Miles Away is streaming right now on the Amazon platform. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Conversations from Studio 5. Hope you'll join me next week. Next week, we're sitting down with actor Dennis Quaid. We're talking to him about his acting career, a new gospel album, and so much more. For more information on the show, please be sure to check out our Facebook page, and you can find us on Instagram by searching Studio 5. I look forward to seeing you right here on the podcast. Thank you.